Every day, Emma quietly did something most people would ignore. No one noticed, but her heart never gave up. What looked ordinary at first would soon change lives in ways nobody expected. This story will touch your heart and remind you how even the smallest acts of kindness can make a world of difference. Emma Clark stood under the halo of a street lamp, a canvas pouch pressed to her chest. Rain threaded the sidewalks, quiet as memory, and she listened to the rhythm like a metronome marking 10 years. For a decade, Emma had done something most people call insignificant. She saved coins. Not in a glass jar for show, but in a worn pouch she treated with reverence. Each coin placed with the steady patience she used to make coffee and greet neighbors. Before we dive into the story, a small request from us, please. Subscribe to our channel, like, and share. We've put in effort and time to create this for you, and we hope you'll enjoy it. Stay connected, and don't forget to hit subscribe. To the outside world, she was ordinary. A barista with a warm laugh, a tiny apartment, shifts that blurred. Yet inside that pouch lived a promise she kept in secret. Her days were stitched from small mercies, covering a coworker's shift, leaving soup on a doorstep, lending a sweater. Nobody knew that each small sacrifice fed the pouch until tonight. Beneath rain and lamplight, Emma felt the familiar weight in her hands, equal parts metal and meaning. 10 years of quiet choices pulsed there, an accumulation of hope. She drew a breath, the street smelling of wet asphalt and possibility. And for the first time in a while, she allowed herself to imagine what those coins could become. Emma's habit of saving coins hadn't started as a dream, but as a necessity. 10 years earlier, her life had taken a turn that left her standing in the ruins of what she once believed was stable. Her mother, Margaret Clark, had fallen seriously ill, and the bills came like waves Emma couldn't outrun. She worked 2 jobs back then, scraping by with tips and late-night shifts, always arriving home with aching feet and a heart that felt too heavy for her small frame. One night, after paying yet another medical bill, she found herself staring at a single coin left on the counter. It glinted under the kitchen light, almost mocking her. But something inside her shifted. She picked it up, rolled it between her fingers, and slipped it into a pouch she had received as a child. It was nothing more than a fabric bag with fading embroidery. Yet that night it became a symbol, a fragile seed of hope. From then on, Emma made a quiet promise to herself. She would save whatever coins she could, no matter how small, no matter how tired she was. At first, it was a simple survival instinct. But as time passed, the pouch became tied to something deeper, an unspoken wish, a silent vow she was too afraid to articulate. Margaret eventually passed, despite Emma's tireless devotion. Losing her mother was like losing a piece of her own breath. The world lost its color for a long time. But Emma kept saving coins, almost as if keeping that routine kept a part of her mother alive. People around her never understood why she always asked to keep the change, or why she preferred paying in cash. Some even joked about her old-fashioned ways. Emma would just smile softly and say nothing. Life didn't get easier. Her job at the cafe paid modestly, and rising rent in the city stretched her budget thin. She often skipped outings with friends, choosing instead to walk home, cook simple meals, and tuck away whatever spare change she had left. On tough weeks, she found herself counting coins in dim light. Worried she wouldn't have enough for essentials, yet she never touched the pouch savings. Not once. Her coworker, Jason Miller, often teased her gently. "Emma, you're the only person I know who treats a coin like a treasure map," he'd say with a laugh. She'd laugh too, even though behind that smile lived a decade of quiet sacrifices no one knew. There were nights she cried softly in her tiny apartment, exhausted and overwhelmed, wondering if her effort meant anything at all. The world around her moved faster each year. Friends married, bought homes, and took vacations. Emma stayed rooted, steady but still, like a tree growing quietly in the shadows. She wanted more from life, of course. She did. But she didn't resent anyone. She simply carried on, saving coins like prayer beads, believing one day they would matter. The real pressure began 6 months ago, when her landlord announced yet another rent increase. Her chest tightened the day she heard the news. She stood in her kitchen with the letter trembling in her hands. She felt that same helplessness from years ago, creeping in again the feeling of running up a hill that never leveled, of fighting a battle with no weapons. Around the same time, Jason noticed her fading smile and asked if everything was okay. Emma brushed it off, offering her usual reassuring warmth. But inside, she was spiraling. Some nights she stayed awake staring at the ceiling, whispering, "How much longer can I keep doing this?" Her pouch lay on the nightstand each night, filled with the weight of 10 years of choices. Yet she still had no idea what she would ever use it for. All she knew was that it was the only thing in her life that felt like control. The only thing she could hold on to when everything else felt uncertain. And now, with rising costs, mounting pressures, and the constant ache of tired days, Emma felt the walls closing in. That quiet pouch, her symbol of hope, suddenly felt like a question. A question she wasn't ready to answer. As autumn settled in, painting the city in warm shades of amber and rust, Emma found herself walking a little slower each morning. The cool air felt refreshing, almost like it carried whispers of change. But she didn't know whether that change would lift her or press her further down. Still, she kept moving, her pouch tucked safely in her bag as always. One crisp Saturday afternoon, after a long week at the cafe, Emma wandered into a small flea market near the river. She didn't usually buy anything, but she loved browsing, seeing the stories of people's lives laid out on tables. Trinkets, books, old photographs, hand-carved boxes. Something about the place always stirred her curiosity, giving her a soft escape from her worries. She paused at a stall run by an elderly woman named Ruth Bennett, who often sold old jewelry and keepsakes. Ruth smiled warmly when she saw Emma. "Back again, dear. Looking for treasure today?" Emma chuckled gently. Maybe just a little inspiration. As she scanned the table, she felt a tiny thrill, this quiet, comforting joy she always experienced around old things that carried secrets. Wow, she thought, as her fingers brushed across a small handcrafted wooden frame with delicate floral patterns. It reminded her of her mother's handiwork. A soft sigh escaped her, filled with both nostalgia and affection. Ruth leaned in slightly. "Your eyes say you're carrying a lot, sweetheart." Hard week? The kindness in her tone nearly cracked something inside Emma, but she steadied herself with a faint smile. Just life being life. "Ah," Ruth nodded knowingly. "Then remember something for me, will you? People like Yutha, ones who keep going, even when it hurts there, the quiet heroes of the world." The words landed with a surprising weight, warming Emma's chest. She thanked Ruth and continued wandering, but those words lingered. Quiet heroes. It felt foreign, yet oddly comforting. As weeks passed, subtle shifts began happening around her. Jason started bringing her a cup of tea every morning before the cafe got busy. "You look cold," he'd say, with a playful grin. "Ha ha," she couldn't help laughing softly, shaking her head at his dramatic delivery. Their bond grew more genuine, more heartfelt. He could read her moods easily, often noticing the exhaustion behind her polite smiles. One evening after closing, he caught her sitting alone at the counter, staring at nothing. "Emma," he said softly, pulling up a chair. "Talk to me." She hesitated, then took a breath. "I've been saving coins for 10 years. I don't even know why anymore." Jason blinked. 10 years, Emma. That's incredible. What are you planning to do with them? She shook her head slowly. I don't know. It was supposed to help one day. For something big, something good. But now it feels like I'm just holding on to a dream that doesn't know where it belongs. Jason watched her with thoughtful eyes. Maybe the purpose will show up when you need it most. His words echoed something inside, her like a door, unlocking quietly. One night, soon after, Emma returned home late from her shift. The hallway lights flickered as she reached her apartment, and when she opened the door, she gasped softly. Her living room window had cracked from the winter cold, leaving glass scattered across the floor. She stood still for a moment, overwhelmed. Her rent was rising, her energy was thin, and now repairs loomed over her. She felt her chest tighten. Sighing deeply, she sat on the couch, clutching her pouch. Its weight pressed into her palms like a reminder. It's like a heartbeat. For the first time in 10 years, she whispered aloud, "Maybe it's time." The next morning arrived calm and silver, with soft winter light filtering through the cracked window. Emma wrapped herself in a thick sweater and sat quietly at her kitchen table, the pouch resting in front of her. Her fingers trembled as she loosened the drawstring. For 10 years, she had opened it only to add coins, never to touch, count, or question. Today, something felt different. There was a quiet courage in her chest she hadn't felt before. When the coins spilt out onto the table, sound filled the room with a gentle clatter, like a chorus of tiny bells. Emma stared at them, the metal glimmering in soft morning light. A wave of memory washed through her. 10 years of hardships, 10 years of kindness, 10 years of holding on when life kept pushing her down. Her eyes glistened. "This has to mean something," she whispered. She began sorting the coins, stacking them carefully. Hours passed, and when she finally counted the total, her breath caught. It wasn't just a modest amount. It was far more than she ever imagined. Enough to make a difference. Enough to change something meaningful. She sat back, stunned. Wow. Her heart fluttered with both disbelief and wonder. What could she do with this? Fix her window? Pay off overdue bills? Move somewhere smaller? Safer? All of those things would have helped. But none of them felt like the purpose she had carried for a decade. There had to be something more. Later that afternoon, she walked through the city with the pouch tucked beneath her coat. The air was frosty, but her steps were steady, almost light. She wandered without a plan, letting instinct guide her, distracted by her thoughts. She nearly missed the small commotion across the street, an elderly man collapsing beside a grocery store without thinking. Emma rushed over. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside him. His breathing was shallow, and he looked frightened. A few bystanders hovered uncertainly, but Emma took charge with calm urgency. She called emergency services, checked his pulse, and stayed by his side until help arrived. The man's daughter soon rushed over, tears streaming as she thanked Emma. "You saved my father," she cried. "I don't know how to repay you." But Emma shook her head gently. "I just did what anyone would do." As they spoke, Emma noticed a donation box outside the grocery store, an effort to fund a community center struggling to stay open due to rising costs. Children played there after school. Seniors gathered there to combat loneliness. Families relied on its warmth. The handwritten sign read, "One small contribution can keep hope alive." Emma felt her chest warm, a sudden clarity flooding through her. This was it. Her 10-year promise, the endless coins, the secret pouch, the sacrifice is it, was meant to land here. In a place where hope was slipping, in a place where her mother, who loved helping others, would have smiled. She stood before the donation box, the pouch in her hands. With a trembling breath and a soft, emotional smile, she poured in the coins. The sound echoed like 1,000 quiet stories finding their ending. As the last of the coins slipped into the donation box, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in years: lightness. Not the fleeting kind that comes and goes with good days, but a deep, quiet release that wrapped around her heart like warmth after a long winter. She stepped back, watching the box now filled with the weight of her decade-long commitment, and a soft smile curved her lips. It felt as though every small struggle, every long shift, every quiet night had finally transformed into something meaningful. The next week, Emma received a call from the community center. The director, a kind woman named Sheila Porter, invited her to visit. When Emma walked in, she was surprised to see the staff gathered around, faces bright with gratitude. Sheila approached her. "Emma, your contribution didn't just help. It saved us. We were days away from closing. Your donation kept our doors open, kept our programs alive, and kept our children and seniors safe and connected. You gave us more than money. You gave us hope." Emotion rushed through Emma, warm and overwhelming. She blinked rapidly, touched by their sincerity. She had never imagined that her quiet act could make such a profound difference. The center buzzed with life around her children laughing in the play area, Seniors sharing stories over tea, volunteers preparing art supplies. The sight filled her with awe. Later, as she sat on a bench inside the center, Jason appeared at the entrance. He had insisted on coming along after she'd finally told him what she had done. He walked toward her, smiling widely. "Emma, I can't believe it. 10 years of saving coins. And this is what you chose? You're incredible." She laughed softly, wiping a tear. "I just wanted it to matter." "It does," he said firmly. "More than you'll ever know." Together, they watched the room, taking in the warmth and life that radiated from every corner. A gentle peace settled over Emma. For so long, she had carried the weight of responsibility, fear, and uncertainty. But today, she felt none of that. Instead, she felt connected to her mother's memory, to her community, to a purpose she hadn't realized was calling her all along. Walking out of the center that evening, she breathed in the cool air with renewed hope. She had spent 10 years believing she was just surviving, just holding on. But in truth, she had been building something beautiful, one small coin at a time. And in that moment, she understood something powerful. Sometimes the quietest sacrifices shape the brightest futures. Emma returned home that evening with a heart full of warmth. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement as she walked, a soft smile playing on her lips. Her 10 years of quiet persistence had blossomed into something extraordinary, proving that even the smallest actions can echo far beyond what we ever imagine. Sometimes it's the smallest actions that echo the loudest in the heart. If Emma's story touched you today, remember that your own acts of kindness, no matter how small, carry power. Each step you take toward helping someone, each moment of patience, each gesture of love, can ripple out and change lives in ways you might never see. So let's keep this circle of hope alive. If Emma's journey inspired you, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, share it with friends and family who could use a heartwarming story today. Drop a comment below to tell us how a small act of kindness has made a difference in your life. We'd love to hear your story. Stay connected, stay kind, and never underestimate the impact of even the tiniest coin in your hand.